in the kitchen with Georgia at the Hub on Smith. Hi, today I'd like to share a recipe with you on how to make bone broth. Bone broth is a wonderful health food and it's great for the budget too. Not very expensive to make. So to make bone broth, you first need to start with a bone. You can use any animal bone, chicken bones, fish bones, beef bones, wild game bones. You just want to take some time to really make sure you really know your source of the bone and that it's a source you feel really comfortable with using. So what I have today, I have a beef bone from Sackett's Market. They sell these soup bones and they're about $3 a pound. And I made a broth today that I used 4 pounds of these bones. And so the point of making a bone broth is you want to do a low, slow heat for a long time, 24 to 72 hours. So you put the bones in a broth for 24 to 72 hours with the goal of getting the nutrients that are in this bone into the broth to make bone broth. So what are the nutrients that are in here? There are some really complex proteins, collagen, for example, and by low and slow cooking, you allow those proteins to break down so that then they can be in the broth and they're accessible for you to actually digest and absorb. Otherwise, if they're just in the bone, there's no way for us to access them. So that low, slow cooking allows those nutrients to get into the broth. So other nutrients, wonderful minerals like zinc and boron, magnesium, have very high levels in the bones. Because, you think about your own bones, that's really where you store your minerals in your body. So by taking a bone and letting it slowly release those minerals into a broth, it's going to have a lot of minerals in it. And the proteins too. And within those proteins, they're extremely beneficial to the gut lining. They're some of your gut's favorite proteins to help it stay strong and healthy and keep that immune system that's in the gut doing its job well. Okay, so enough about the benefits of the bone. How do you make the broth? So I'm using 4 pounds of bones and putting it in this nice big stock pot. And then I will put in whatever vegetables really you want, whatever is on hand. The beautiful thing about making a broth like this is you're just going to discard these vegetables. So you don't have to really, it's nice to make sure they look clean, there's no dirt on them, but you don't really have to clean them up really well because you're not going to actually eat them. So if you want to cut off the tops, great, you don't actually have to. You could just cut them up a bit, just like this, and then throw them in the pot. Because again, you're not going to eat those. You could if you wanted, but you're trying to just get a broth. So you put the vegetables in. I'm going to use 4 pounds of bones, 3 large carrots, and 3 large stalks of celery. That's what I put in my broth. And then I'm going to add a green. You can use parsley. This is some kale. I'm going to put some kale in there as well. And I like to put in the green after it's been cooking for 24 to 72 hours, the last 20 to 30 minutes. Also, I'm going to put in an onion, and I can just simply, you can take off the skins if you like, but I'm going to strain my broth over cheesecloth, so I'm not really worried about the skins being in there. And in fact, I want to make sure it looks clean. Definitely going to take off the sticker, but sometimes the skins have a more of these wonderful nutrients we're looking for, like quercetin. So I'm just going to throw the whole thing in, knowing that I'm going to discard it after 24 to 72 hours of it sitting here simmering. So the other ingredients that go into the pot is an acid. So vinegar is a great acid. So letting those bones kind of soak in acid, the vinegar, for about an hour before you put in the water and all of the vegetables, and then you let it simmer for 24 to 72 hours. You can also add a little bit of salt if you like for the flavor, or even some other seasonings like oregano would be wonderful to add to this as well. After it's been simmering, you want to watch it carefully so that it doesn't lose too much liquid, and if it's getting really reduced, then you could add some more water to it. So after it's been simmering for 24 to 72 hours, you take it off and you strain it. You can use cheesecloth, you can use a colander, strain it so it's just the broth, and then you can store the broth in mason jars. You could store it in an ice cube tray and it can freeze for a month. If you're just going to store it in the fridge in a mason jar, it can store for 7 days. For more information on how to make bone broth, please visit my website at www.tailorednutritionllc.com. Thanks for listening and wishing you well from the Hub on Smith.